Bismillah, alhamdulillah, sallallahu sallam wa baraka ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. First question says, Assalamu alaikum. May Allah increase you in goodness for your aiding of the ummah. I'm a 25-year-old brother who resides in the UK, where I'm finding it difficult to find a job that gives me a peace of mind and heart that is earned in a permissible manner. I live in a city with a low Muslim population and no one whose education and methodology in Islam I trust. My question is regarding the permissibility of the following two job opportunities. First one says, the job requires the typing of audio recordings into text from home. I'll be fine with this, of course. However, the recordings of these things most likely don't abide by the Sharia, e.g., having to transcribe a conference event which was mixed in the first place, or was created for haram initiative, etc., or having to transcribe a meeting in which a man and a woman were alone. Would simply transcribing the audio recording of the event be a permissible means of seeking the rizq of Allah, or would this be helping evil? Also, there is another job opportunity which is factory work. The point of contention is that the work could have a lady to work alongside me on a factory line. No talking should be required except to maybe say a few instructions for work purposes. I would of course ask my employer to position me as far as possible from any ladies using my best manners, but if refused, what should be the ruling in that situation? Also, the job may require attending training sessions in which it is mixed in the sense that there will be men and women and employees sitting in the same room, between parentheses, not interacting because it would be just a watching training video or hearing a speaker give it a presentation. Jazakallahu khairan. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Ameen to your dua. Thank you very much for your kind words. May Allah Azza wa Jal bless your soul. With regards to the two scenarios, then obviously the questioner, he feels that he's stuck between a rock and a hard place. A rock and a hard place. And this is something that's very common among many Muslims in the United Kingdom, in America, in New York City, wherever you go. Muslims are struggling, trying to find good, permissible jobs. A job, hayakallah, a job, an occupation in which they're not dealing with khamr, they're not dealing with khinzir, flesh of swine, alcohol, they're not dealing with haram things, haram products, so on and so forth. Then you have to grow your beard, praying on time, making Jumu'ah, etc., and the list goes on. So sometimes many Muslims, they find this to be challenging. And then the hard place, that's the rock. The hard place comes in which there is a job in which you can make salat on time. You don't have to shave your beard. You don't have to wear skin-tight clothes. You're not around alcohol and the flesh of swine. You're not around this haram thing. You're not have to listen to this music. But you may be doing something which is either directly or indirectly haram, or directly or indirectly disliked, or directly or indirectly questionable. Everybody understand this? So the Muslim oftentimes feels as if he's between a rock and a hard place. A rock and a hard place. As many people asked questions before about working in a barber shop, or getting a barber's license, or a hairstylist license, and you have to do haram things to get that license, such as shave someone's face, such as trim someone's eyebrows, style someone's eyebrows, and the list goes on. But if you get the license, you can have your own Muslim barbershop. You don't have to listen to music, you don't have to watch movies, you don't have to deal with women, you can pray on time, you can make the salat, you can grow your beard. So oftentimes many Muslims, they feel this difficulty between a rock and between a hard place. And whenever there is a major difficulty that is felt, an actual hardship, an actual difficulty, it's one of the two reasons. Either you're clinging or holding fast to something that you think is the ruling of Allah. In actuality, it isn't. You think that you're clinging to Allah's ruling, this is haram, I can't do this, I can't be with this, and that's not actually the case. Or that is actually the case, but in this situation, it may be a concession. It may be permissible. It may have an allowance not to do it, or to do it, or whatever the case may be. And all of these things are summed up in two holy texts. The first is when the Prophet ﷺ tells us, "Man yuridillahu bihi khayran yufaqihu fid din." Allah wants good for someone, He gives them knowledge of the religion. He gives them fiqh of the deen. What's halal, what's haram, what's makruh, what's not makruh, what's authentic and what isn't authentic. Is this free mixing? If it is free mixing, is it permissible or not? If I work in a place and they're playing music, is it haram to listen to the background music or not? Fiqh fi deen. And secondly, it's something which is called hikmah, that Allah mentions in Surah Al-Baqarah. And He says that whoever Allah gives hikmah, فَقَدْ أُوتِيَ خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا. Allah says, وَمَنْ يُؤْتَ الْحِكْمَةِ, and those are given hikmah, those who have been blessed with wisdom, then they have been given an abundant amount of good. An abundant amount of good is to have wisdom. It's to know what to say, when to say it, and how to say it. It's to know what not to say, when to be quiet, and how long to be quiet. And the list goes on of wisdom. Putting everything in its proper place. Putting everything in its proper place. And these are the pillars of the Sharia. Knowledge and wisdom. Wisdom and knowledge. So therefore, many Muslims, they have this problem when they live as minorities. And as we've said before, it is the duty and the responsibility of the Muslims to establish Islam to the best of their ability. To establish Islam to the best of their ability in every sense of the word Islam. You should establish the prayers, you establish the Islamic dress code, you establish a halal restaurant, you establish a halal meat market, a Hajj package, you establish a Sunday school for the children. The Muslims also have to have jobs, they also have to have occupations. Entrepreneurship is critical in Islam. Or if you can't be an entrepreneur, then at least have a formal profession in which you become a supervisor and then you bring in other Muslims. And the rule of shaving the beard, say they don't have to shave their beard. They can do the job without shaving the beard. They don't have to deal with the pork. They don't have to deal with the swine. So it's very important for Muslims to look after the concept of finance and economics in the deen. The deen is a complete way of life, Elijah. Everything is complete about Islam. Khairan, inshallah. So we've explained that before. What's important is, in this situation, if you transcribe, or if you had to pick between the first or the second, I would say go with the second job. I would say go with the second job opportunity, working in the factory. You putting together something, assembling something, being on a line in the factory line, you're not too far, you're not too close, you're not too close to the woman, you're not necessarily talking to her unnecessarily. That's better, in my humble opinion, than you transcribing conversations. And with some of those conversations and some of those dialogues could be clear kufr, clear disobedience to Allah and His Messenger. Rather, some of those conversations could be clear plots against Islam and the Muslims. But other conversations may not just be a normal conversation. A cuss word is mentioned. Someone says, oh, Jesus. Someone talks about making zina. Come here, meet me here, so on and so forth. Normal, basic conversation. Whatever the purpose of that transcription is. And it does not necessarily mean that it's haram. You're just transcribing information. Unless you know that this information is being directly used to harm Islam and to harm Muslims. Similar to a cab driver or a bus driver. Many brothers said you can't be a cab driver. TLC, you're talking about in the car. Uber, Winchester, what'd you say? Long Island. That's haram. Drop someone off at a club. You can't be a limousine driver. Drop someone off at a club. They're going to drink. They're going to smoke. You know they're making zina. But a bus driver, what's the difference? This stop is a club. This stop is a stadium. This stop is an arena. This stop is a church. Are you going to not stop the bus on Sunday morning? An older lady, she comes with her hat and her bag and her dress, her Bible, her good book. And she pulls the string and the church is at the corner. What are you going to do? You provide a what? A public service. I pick people up, I drop people off. What they do when they get off my bus is that's not my concern. That's not my business. I'll provide a public service. However, I would advise you, if you had to pick one of the two, bid'an ta'ala, is to take the second opportunity. And obviously the concept of free mixing is something that many people, they misunderstand. Many people misunderstand the concept of free mixing. Scholar, student, and layman. They misunderstand the concept of what is free mixing and what is the free mixing that is haram, what is the free mixing that is makruh, what is the free mixing that is permissible, mubah. And all of these different rulings and guidelines can clearly be found in the authentic hadith of the Prophet ﷺ with the classical explanations of the ulama. We said the classical, not contemporary. The classical explanations of the ulama. When the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba were with other women. When the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba removed themselves from women. When the Prophet ﷺ says, do not be with this woman, do not enter upon women. And when the Prophet ﷺ saw people together and he did not criticize and repudiate them. These rulings of free mixing, when it is haram, when it's halal, when it's a necessity, when it isn't a necessity, all can be found bid'Allah ta'ala in those ahadith with the classical interpretation of the ulama, the 6th century, the 5th century, the 4th century, and the list goes on. So that's the advice that I give to you, my humble opinion. I ask Allah Azza wa Jal to make it easy for you to get a good job, a good means of occupation that's halal, that's pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that will help you bid'Allah ta'ala feed yourself, clothe yourself, feed your family, clothe your family, and worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in an easier manner. Ameen. Next question says, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.